classic animation or character animation is just one of the most difficult things to do. So I worked at, when I worked at Industrial Light and Magic, when I was working on stuff, I didn't do any character animation. So I did a little bit of motion capture for the droids, and mostly I just flew a big shiny ship around. And when you met people who were doing character animation, you were just impressed, because you just knew all these little details. But one of the things that I learned as I started talking to character animators, it wasn't just about the character animators themselves were amazing, but it was also how the rigging was set up, how the tools were provided to them. And there were whole teams that were building these little bits and pieces to make sure that it was easy to grab onto that, because then they could express their artistic intent more powerfully. It's just having the tools and having those pieces put together. And so when we saw a little bit about Cascadeur, I was like, we got to get these guys on. So we have Max Mokishi is here to show us a little bit about Cascadeur. Max, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be there. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Really, really great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about Cascadeur.
So you know what, before I say anything, the story that you told is very much my story as well, because I've been in CGI for like 15 years or over 15 years now. And animation has always been this part I tried my best to understand, but at some point I just gave up. I said, like, no animation for me, I'll just stick to, just rendering, doing other stuff, post-production, camera tracking, whatever, not the animation. So right. I came into, Cascadeur with this actual fear of animating. And bit by bit, I grew like really, really accustomed to like the new way it suggests we animate. And I'm just completely captivated by the whole idea. And here I am.
What's the new way? What makes it different?
The thing that stood out for me is that we often say that, it's much easier to learn than, say, Maya, Blender, or any other conventional way of keyframe animation. Mm-hmm. And it's actually very true. But the thing is, the biggest part about it is that back in the day when you were animating anything, you had to have like a clear plan of what you're going to do. You're not going to be changing your animation midway, right? Because, once you start you pass the blocking, past the spline, you start, just finagling, adding, secondary motion, all those kinds of stuff. And suddenly, your workspace is completely crowded with the keyframes, and there's not much that you can do after that. But with Cascadeur, the coolest thing is that it's a great mixture of AI and human input. You can still be creative, you can still be animating, you can still go into all those tricky little details, but you can, at any point, you can change anything. At any point, you can say like, I don't like this, let's do something else. Just swap the mid of your animation with something else, bring something, from completely different route. It's fun.
And how is AI used in this process?
There's a couple of things. So first of all, we have something which is called auto-posing, which is an AI network that helps you sort of like pay attention to, the way you pose the character. Usually you would go into all those little details of how the clavicle, how everything works. With auto-posing, it's just, you just move a part of the character's body and it predicts the position of the rest of the body depending on those parts. And it gets really impressive when you try to kind of like have a reference, right? And then you just match, the character's hands and the character's feet, and then suddenly the pose is the same, and you go like, whoa, okay. Saves you time.
Can you show us how it works?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I have a couple of things to show today.
Okay.
So I think we can switch to my stream here. So with since we were talking about auto-posing, this is a very simple example where, for example, we have a character which is, rigged, right? Right. And as we are going to move, say, one of his feet, you can see that, the rest of the body tries to take some position, depending on the changes that you make. But for example, say we want to keep the character's rotation. So we lock the character's rotation. And now if we are moving the character's foot, it will keep the rotation, right? So that's the whole idea of working with auto-posing. So you just make sure that you work with things, you pay attention to, certain like key poses that the character has to make.
I mean, in many ways, this is a very advanced inverse kinematics, right? A lot of us have, forward kinematics, we're rotating. Then you have inverse kinematics where there's some rules, but this feels much more like there's a lot of more behavior added to that IK chain.
True, but this the rig itself is both IK and FK at the same time. Mm-hmm. So should you want to like move the hand around as an IK, you can do that.
Yep.
For example, if you want to rotate the hand, you can just use the rotate tool and literally just rotate it as an FK. So at any point.
For the folks watching that don't do a lot of animation, forward kinematics is really I'm explicitly rotating this joint and then this joint and then this joint. Inverse kinematics is like just grab onto one end and pull it, and it makes all the calculations that are required. And oftentimes animation's a little bit of both. You're going to pull someone into the position, but then you have to fine tune it, and you're gonna kind of go back and forth. So having both of those in the chain is important. But this looks like it's even more advanced, where it's got the IK, but it's also making a bunch of other decisions around how it solves that IK.
For example, look, with the wrists, for instance, right, we know that, the way you can predict the position of the character's shoulder by rotating the wrist, and that's what it does. So, for example, like if you are rotating the wrist and you placing the wrist in a specific position, it can give you the position of the elbow and the shoulder. And again, so you can go into as much detail as you want. Say I want a different position of the say the shoulder or the elbow, and I can do this. So I can finagle it as much as I want. But you always have a way to kind of like, okay, well, for example, say we ended up with this position. I think like something's wrong, right? So I can just always let auto-posing tell me what it thinks the best way for the hand or the position of a certain body part is, right? Same goes for the head, for example, right? It always knows where up is. So just rotating the direction gives you a believable position of the head. And again, you can change it at any time, but the idea is that it saves you a lot of time just to get, the initial poses down, right? And later on, I will show you how this can also help you, fix, certain things, certain bugs that you can get in mocap or something really, really quickly. I will quickly say that we also have the same tool for the character's fingers. So the idea is that you just move, say, one finger, and then you can quickly, turn the hand into a fist. Say you want, more control, you can lock this finger and, move some other finger and get, a believable.
And that would take a long time to do otherwise. I mean, being able to grab that and I just want to close this up. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So that's all the idea. So you can start, from, making big decisions. I'm sounding like Bob Ross now. Big decisions. But then again, you can go into as much detail as you want. And at some point, you can add even more extra points just to help you rotate, say the clavicles and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the idea. But the example that I really, really wanted to show you, also, I hope the frame rate is actually good,
it's good.
For you
good.
guys.
It's totally working.
Great. So this is a mocap animation, right? There's two characters, one of them doing a backflip, which I think is impressive. But again, this is...
And we're a CG, we talk about CG on Tuesdays, but a lot of video and audio folks. So I'm just going to back up just 1 second and just say when we say mocap, this is a motion capture system. So we put a bunch of reflectors or a variety of other things onto a person. We capture their actual motion and then map it onto a CG character from the actual actor. But it oftentimes comes with a fair amount of errata. That isn't quite exactly what you want.
Does. This particular mocap is very high quality, so it's OptiTrack. There's very little things that you want to correct there. But nonetheless, you get some, with any mocap or with any animation that you can download from the internet, what you end up with once you import it into your software is something that we called baked animation, meaning every single keyframe every single frame is a keyframe, right? So if I were, just to demonstrate real quick, so if I were to change one keyframe like this, it's not going to change the rest of the animation. It's just going to be like one frame, right? Because every frame is a keyframe.
Right.
So what we've achieved recently, and we're very, very proud of, is the unbaking system. So the idea is that, now you have just, the thing with the keyframes, right? Where every single frame is a keyframe. But once you click the unbake button, what it's going to do, it's going to evaluate your animation, and it's going to give you the keyframes and the interpolation intervals between them absolutely automatically. It will take into consideration, the poses, the changes of the character, the animation of the character. So as you see, like with a single click of a button, we got, the keyframes, and we can go through them here, and the interpolation in between them. It also chooses different kinds of interpolation. Also, it does switch between FK or IK just to give you the best result. So the animation that you get is now fully editable, one, and the other thing is that it also helps clean up certain things. So you can adjust how dense you want the keyframes to be, and you see they're not regular, right? There's not really much going on here, so you have less keyframes. Now there's a lot of things happening over here. There's more keyframes there, and this is how it works. So it's clever, actually. Now with a tool like this, what you can do, for example, say you have like 6,000 frames, of character like having like sliding feet or like jiggly shoulders. So what you can do is just unbake with a specific setting. You can go into the settings and adjust how precise you want it to be, so you can get it. Now what we end up with is this kind of animation, which is I'll just play it back again. So say we want to add something, we want to change something. Now, if we turn auto physics, you can see that there's a green stun double, right, appears there, just to keep it Cascadeur. So you can see that now you have green and orange on your timeline. That's how it evaluates stuff. So the reason you see this difference is because you could see that, we as humans and everything on this planet are dependent on gravity, right? And dependent on what we call fulcrum points, or what is called fulcrum points. So the points where we come in touch with the surface and we rest our mass on, right? So this is where, you can see the character stands on the ground. So his both feet are on the ground. Now he's moving one foot, so he's not putting any pressure on this one, right? And here the character just jumps, and now it's airborne up until this moment. So this is where autophysics builds a ballistic trajectory. So it sends the character sort of flying. And for example, say we want the jump to be higher, because why not, right? We can just increase the amount of keyframes when the character is airborne. And if you can see here, if I just put them all both together, you can see that the jump now is higher, but it's still physically accurate, right? So the character the autophysics creates an accurate ballistic trajectory. The character rotates around their center of mass. So should they have like a very heavy head, for example, they will rotate as a hammer around the head, right? And these are the things that you don't have to, have any input in, right? You can just see like what would physically be accurate.
As it does the physics, is it calculating weight? I mean, are you able to make those changes to how it calculates that?
Yeah, you can say, your character has a very giant sword, for example. Mm-hmm. It will affect the character's balancing and everything. So, and this is something, again, that you can apply straight away, or you can just use as a reference. So thinking like, okay, so the character gets higher there, right? So is jumping up. So maybe I want to really just grab my character and, align, make him jump higher. So make changes according to this, to what autophysics suggests. But here's the crazy stuff. So say we want to, add, something to it. So it's not like a single flip. Let's make, say, a double backflip, because why not? So let's put it away a little bit so it doesn't really get in the way real quick. Yep. So we just add another keyframe somewhere and probably like rotate the character's body in some way. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Also, I would set the whole interval to FK just to make it interpolate a little bit better. I'm not explaining every single step. I'm actually planning to have like a live stream tomorrow and take this scene apart and really show you some crazy stuff there. But look, so now we have a double backflip, right? Out of nowhere. So this is just physics calculating the inertia and everything and bringing us, some new stuff. And the crazy part here is that you can further make more adjustments to it. So for example, right now we know that the character jumps higher, right? And but nothing else changes here. But we can use, other filters, for example, for smooth trajectory. And then you can see that to accommodate for the higher jump, he squats lower. And then as he lands, he squats lower again to get more bouncy. Again, something that comes out of nowhere, so to speak. I didn't do this myself, right? I just had autophysics do those things for me. So yeah, that's the crazy part about it. And then you can just apply it. You can use it as a reference. You can snap your animation to this autophysics results and keep your keyframes, continue working, or for example, bake it and unbake it again. And there you go. And this is where it becomes less rigid. It becomes fun, meaning that I can do something, I can make changes, I can see what, AI algorithms or autophysics suggest, and then I can either go with it or just...
I want to put you on the spot. Are you able to do from the ground up, a walk cycle in here?
You can make a walk cycle. Yeah, I think...
I always find it interesting to see how someone approaches it in different apps.
I did have a video of making a step in Cascadeur, I think. I could probably do this.
Just to show someone, just to show. I mean, you don't have to finish the whole thing. Just to get a sense of how the animation works. I think, is that possible?
I think it is possible, but then let me quickly finish this example. So I will. So the last thing here I will do is that I will snap the animation. Just 1 second. I will snap the animation to autophysics and no, give me a second.
And is this Mac or PC?
Sorry, what?
Is it Mac or PC? Mac
it's
PC?
Mac and PC and also, so what you have here, and also we have like a mobile version of Cascadeur coming up real soon. It's a bit more simplified, but something that you can do on your iPad Pro and easily. So you see, like, this is what we ended up with. So this kind of double flip, just still physically accurate, right? Still doesn't really. So if we link these two scenes together, and I'll just show you the whole thing, you can still see that it's still physically accurate. It's still, believable, and it's there in like 10 minutes, I hope.
yeah. It's great. And it does now. And how does it for enveloping, how do you set up the character? Does it do most of that work for you, or is it something you're still, or do you bring the characters in already set up?
Yeah, once you bring in any character, you go through a very quick rigging process. We actually call it like a quick rigging tool, because for a lot of things, you would want to have this, auto-posing rig controllers, for example, for retargeting in Cascadeur, right? So should you have, like, for example, two characters with completely different, proportions, one with longer legs, the other one with, like a longer limbs or something like this, you can retarget it with just a copy paste, and it will take into consideration all those things, like a character with longer legs will run, make bigger steps and run bigger circles, for example.
Are you normally bringing the character in an A pose or T pose to do
A pose or
for
T
the auto?
pose? Yeah, and for most of the characters, say that for most of the rigs, you can bring from Des 3D, Unreal Engine, Maya, Human IK, right, Blender. It will automatically recognize the whole thing and will just assign everything itself. Or otherwise, you can just like open up this menu and you just basically have to fill in these points. So pelvis goes to like pelvis. You just do one side of the character, then you mirror it, and you do the same for the hands. And there you go. You just add rig elements and you get this rig with rigid bodies and with weights that you can then adjust, say make like a very heavy head, as I said, or like adding props to it. And yeah, there you go. And then you have your physics model here.
Nick, you had a
and
couple
Max,
questions.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask, while we're on the topic of the characters, there's already a library of characters that are pre-rigged that go with some of the existing solutions. Like I think I saw the Unreal Engine mannequin is already in there, right? So that I wouldn't even need to do any kind of rigging setup. It's already done inside the system.
Yes, that's very true. So we have a set of default sample scenes that you can go through. We also have like quadruplets, with a saber-toothed little dinosaur. But when you talk about auto-posing, it's a humanoid thing, right? It's for humanoid characters. So you have like Unreal 5. But even if you bring just your Unreal 5 export, just FBX export, it will be rigged automatically already. So you will not have to do anything yourself. With mocap, sometimes you just need to, rig one specific skeleton, say, right? And then you can just reuse this file, every time you apply animation to it. Yep.
We've got a couple questions rolling in. Let's go ahead and jump into the first question.
First one comes from Dave Troutman in Edmonton, Canada, and Dave wonders, exaggerated movement is an important part of cartoon characters. Does Cascadeur allow for distortions, stretching, and twisting outside of normal movement?
The term of squash and stretch that we are so used to hearing, it's not currently supported. I think you can go a certain length and try something like this crazy. You can physically stretch it, but it's not recommended that you do. But when you think about like squashing and stretching a little bit harder, it's just like literally the imitation of motion blur at the end of the day, right? So the fact that the ball sort of like squishes and then it comes to a stop. It's kind of like that. What motion blur does, doesn't it? You can. So that's this touchy subject where people think that once you apply physics or the laws of physics, right, you suddenly are not able to make creative animation or stylized animation. As I said, you can use it as a good reference, but then again, you can play with gravity. You can set the gravity not to the earth, but say like twice or three times as more to get like an extra quick jumps and harsh landings. You can then, you can apply physics at a certain point and then just go with the flow. You can have like an accurate jump, for example, a good ballistic trajectory, and then you can do crazy stuff during it. So why not? It's not like one way or another. It's just saying that the tools that you have can allow you, that they actually allow you to get the best result real quick, and then wherever you go with it, it's up to you. Just leaving more time for creativity rather than going, back and forth and trying to sort of like balance your character, making stuff look accurate and stuff.
Next question.
Nico Kamkalkar in New Jersey wonders, and this is a little bit from Nick's question or answer before, if I want to use Cascadeur with Unreal Engine metahumans, what exactly would the process be, and do I have to do the rigging of the Cascadeur skeleton?
The best thing that I know so far is actually, by the way, it's a good question. I did play with metahumans quite a while, and I think you can either bring the metahuman character in Cascadeur, why not? Just minus the whole the head bones, right? The plethora of those head bones that they have for the facial animation. Or you can actually have your animation set up on Unreal 5. On Unreal 5 many, or Quinn, right? Then just export this animation, and inside Unreal Engine, you have like a very smart retargeting between, different metahumans and Unreal Engine 5 skeleton. Yep. Or you can just import your character if you know how to get it together. You can import it here. It will be automatically recognized. You will not have to go through the rigging process because it's in the base already. And yeah, you can just animate it and then export the FBX, plug it into your Unreal Engine or whatever you, and yeah, go with it.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael's up next. Could the core technology from your product be theoretically used in real-time applications to make virtual worlds more realistic?
So maybe the AI physics process there.
Physics? Oh, that's a good question. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about those things because I think, well, to be fair, it works relatively quickly now, right? It's not, I would not say it's like fully real time, but it calculates rather quickly. Probably, yeah. So, and mind you, it only runs on a single CPU core, I believe, on CPU, not GPU at the time. So once those upgrades take place, I think probably it's going to be possible. I don't know, but it's an interesting question.
I was going to chime in with the fact that this looks to me like an amazing tool where you can start to build out a library of motions. One of the things that Unreal Engine recently added in their 5.4 release was a new system for blending from one animation to another. They have a whole parkour demonstration that allows for, okay, if you have, different ways of jumping over a railing or jumping over a box or climbing a wall, and there's lots of different animations in place. The real-time engine with its full rendering capability will be able to calculate and blend from one to another. So you could actually build that library with Cascadeur and build an entirely custom library. And instead of it being parkour, it could be some form of martial arts, or it could be an equestrian event, or swimming, or triathlon, or something like that. And then bring that into the next stage of the line. I mean, I'm looking at Cascadeur myself as kind of a intelligent mocap system where I don't need the mocap system. I can start to be a little more creative and build things out from scratch in Cascadeur.
In Cascadeur, are you able to do delta? So you have a motion capture, but the elbow doesn't come quite as far out as you want. Can you add another layer of animation and just kind of pull it there so you're not changing the original animation or the original capture, but you're just adding a little bit of motion to it? Something we do pretty often in things like Motion Builder and so on and so forth. Nope, can't hear you.
I was muted for a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as animation layers in Cascadeur, but I can show you like the alternative way you can make changes to your animation. One of the things would be you can always save your file and then link the scene and use it as a reference, right? So you could, for example, have like multiple versions, or you can save the good version, mark it a certain way, and then you can just the way. So if you share my screen real quick here. So like these two scenes are two different scenes, but we just link them together. So we just choose to display the other scene in this project, right? And we can link as many scenes as we want, actually. Am I going to crash? No, I'm not. Good. Because they are all different scenes. So you can use, something like that as a reference, save it as a reference, make changes and stuff. But what I was going to show you here real quick, I'm going to unbake this new result with a double backflip and show you how you can make changes to, say, multiple keyframes at once, or to just an array of, say, you want... sometimes you get like mocap data where, your shoulders are a bit jittery, and it's a common thing, right? So you can always, just select all the frames in the interval and just let auto posing decide the position of the shoulders. That fixes it, and it's consistent, and it's going to give you a very good result. Here, very quickly, so for example, you could see that, the hand, for example, is broken on this particular couple of frames. So instead of going there and trying to like manually change something, I can just select multiple frames. So I'm thinking this is where the hand is actually broken. I can make sure that I apply changes not to one frame but to the interval, and I can just let autoposing decide the position of these points itself, and that's how you get it, right? So now the hand is pretty much fixed, and I did nothing. I just let it decide the position of the points, right? And this is the same thing where you could say, I want to make changes to multiple keyframes at once. So I'll just select all this animation and probably move the character's foot somewhere. I do not know, just a certain distance away, right? And you can definitely do this, and it will move the whole thing on the whole animation. So this is how you can make changes to multiple keyframes at once. And at the same time, there's multiple ways you can apply those changes. So you could use different methods. So what I showed you was the step, right, where you just take the whole thing and you move it equal distance on the whole interval, like this, for example, or you turn your animation. But you can also use something like Bezier method, where you would gradually blend your animation into a certain pose. So, for example, here I can show you how, not a very good example. I can go back to where the character was just jumping on one spot, right? So I could say that, just it's not unbake. Okay. For example, raise your foot on this interval gradually, right? And it will do this. But again, look, I did this. Nothing changed in the animation, but if I turn autophysics on, you could see that, okay, now he's shifting his center of mass, and I didn't do it myself. It just helps me. So this is where, you can make those changes. You can see how it works. You can always go back to the previous one. Having multiple saves actually is a very good idea, because you can go to any scene that you previously saved, copy some pose, copy some piece of animation, and just paste it into your project, given that the characters are the same. If they're not, you can then just go and retarget this whole thing. Just let me show it to you real quick. So say we are cool with the animation that we have here. We selected the interval that we want to retarget, which is go copy, retargeting copy. And for our character here, for example, we just select enough frames and go retargeting paste. It's going to calculate for a while, but initially it's going to bring all this animation to our new character. But these skeletons are completely different, right? So that was Unreal 5, Unreal 4, I believe. This one is our custom character. And then you have it. And then you can run physics on it and see if it changes anything, because the proportions are different. And there, something like that.
Yeah. And next question.
Comes from Rion Smith in Trinidad, down in the West Indies. With this easier method of animating, does the complete beginner need to go back and learn the older methods, or can we just start here and learn those older methods later?
I would personally say that, it's the important thing, especially for the new people, to break the ice and get into, animating and stuff. The coolest thing is to instantly see some results, right? So I'm just new to it, right? And I want to, to be able to do something which, looks like something decent, right? And here, there's definitely a pipeline you have to learn. For example, the way you make the keyframes. I will, since I'm demonstrating, I will demonstrate to you, for example, this. It took me, I think, a couple of hours, 3 to 4 hours, to come up with this animation on one of the workshops. It's fully keyframe. So there's no mocap here. So this animation is just fully keyframe using autophysics. The thing is, the only thing you have to pay attention to is the points of contact where the person just makes contact with the floor, you see here, right? And this is how we calculate the center of mass and everything, all the physics stuff. and that's it. So you just make those poses, then you interpolate, you use autophysics, you apply it, and yeah, you get some results. And then you can go into as much detail as you want with it. Say, I want like a particular way, for example, my hands move. I can visualize those trajectories in the viewport instead of using graph editor, which is difficult to understand. I can edit those trajectories in the viewport live, so I do not have to, like go and do stuff in graph editor. And yeah, so there's a plethora of opportunities to, get something, a quick result very fast, and get inspired by it, and then go an extra mile to make it look perfect.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, as a teacher myself, I'd say that this definitely falls under the category of dessert first, and getting results and getting excited about what's possible with less obstruction and less resistance in getting that start. Because I think opening up a tool like Blender or Maya and all you have is a gray screen or a cube and nowhere to go can be really daunting. And this way you can start with a character and start posing, and with that AI posing, you can learn from that. I was just thinking as I was watching you extend the leap, for example, and the landing had a little bit of extra bounce added to it after you extended the leap, that okay, well, there is an opportunity to teach a student that, see, this is happening in here. And so when you're creating your own manual animations, you can add that in. I know that I feel like I learned a lot of animation technique back when I was doing rotoscoping, because I started to notice motions, follow through motions and secondary motions, because I had to trace them. And so there's a lot of opportunity here related to that. And there's so much to respond here to. You had that video plate in the background. Was that purely reference, or are you able to take video in and actually use that as like a motion capture solution? Like, can you actually essentially take a video and have Cascadeur do like an initial pass of converting that into an animation and then animate from there?
Actually, yes, you can. That particular animation was used solely as a reference. Yeah, so there was no mocap involved. But you can, there is a mocap tool, like a video mocap function, that you can just plug in your video and get some results. It's not going to be like perfectly accurate by any means, but it still could be, something, you can get roughly the poses from. And then again, with the help of auto posing, you don't have to, even if you get like the pose from a picture, it's just a single like angle, right? You can then use auto posing to help you just fix certain placements or something that you might have not paid attention to. Yeah, so you can do this. And to elaborate on that subject of what Cascadeur does, the coolest thing is that it adds a layer of fun to the whole process, meaning that you don't have to follow everything it suggests, right? Sometimes the physics gets broken, or it yields the results that are too realistic for you. But isn't it fun to, for example, have your character, for example, with a sword running around and slashing the sword, and then just playing with the weight of the weapon and see how affects your character, how it affects the secondary motion, how it affects, the whole like balancing and stuff. I think that's pretty dope. And this level of, fun that these tools allow you to achieve is something that could be, it's something that I find myself, sometimes very much indulge into, playing around with all those things, and knowing that you actually have like full control over the result that you are getting. So it's not something that does things for you. It's actually suggests things for you, and, but then it's up to you to either, take it or break it. And you can break it, I promise.
Next question.
Nikhil Kamkador is back from New Jersey. Is there a way to pipe the data live into Unreal and animate a metahuman in real time so we can make adjustments to the Cascadeur posing?
That sounds like a very sophisticated bridge. It's not even like a bridge. It's more like a link, right? A live link to something. I think I've heard, certain conversations about, a possibility of doing that. I think it's definitely possible. Probably not on the immediate radar, because we are trying to, bring in as more, physics improvements as we can, and use stuff to the software. But yeah, probably, but I think it should be possible. Why not?
Next question.
Next one comes to us from Dave Troutman. I'm sorry. Yeah, Dave Troutman in Edmonton, Canada. Can the skeletal anatomy of a character resemble, say, a cat's skeleton?
So I guess quadruped. I think we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. So you can have a quadruped, like a cat that we saw. By the way, a very quick thing that I'm going to show you and demonstrate here. For example, we have we can get this cat to jump somewhere, right? Say we want cat to jump, like a little bit to the side here, right? Now, if we let me do this correct way, because it's a very old rig, we haven't upgraded it. You will not get the auto posing for the cat, right? You will get your normal IK, FK rig that you can work with, right? Just as you would in your any other software. But what you will get, physics can still work without auto posing. It doesn't really need it. So you can definitely use autophysics there. Now, when these things happen is because you see, it doesn't really understand that we have collisions here or fulcrum points. So there's a way to adjust that. We can enforce those fulcrum points. It's not a good example, is it? I'll say it like this, and probably this could be.
Nick, were you going to add something there? Nope, can't hear you.
So I see your quadruped, and I raise you additional appendages. I was just curious: is it arbitrary, the number of appendages? If I wanted a quadruped with wings, for example, could I configure that?
Yeah, you can you can just go there. Well, what I was going to show you here is that although we don't currently have auto posing for this kind of anything other than humanoid character, but you can still definitely use all those things like I said. All the physics tools like smooth trajectory. You can still the character will still bounce and do this stuff. So you can still use physics, and it will play with the center of mass, of course, as it should. So you can still use physics, but not auto posing.
Next question.
Just
Next
one thing.
Question.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just sorry for interrupting. Before that, we used to say that you could unbake your animation. You would have to have like an auto posing rig controllers to unbake it. But coming from the next update, you don't have to have auto posing to unbake anything. So you can have a horse, you can have an object just animated, and you can unbake that as well. You can use this function.
That's great. Next question.
Nicole from New Jersey is right back with this one. Fingers are not really a feature of this system, correct? Is it accurate enough to animate, say, a handshake between two characters?
Define accuracy. So what you have to understand right now is that we don't have any sort of collision between surfaces. That's why we're very, very careful at wording that. For example, we have interaction with environments, right? So you can jump on a say moving platform, and you can animate your character on a moving platform. It will take that into consideration. However, with when it comes to collision, there is no particular collision there, but you can still use auto posing for fingers. I think we did a very fun shorts for YouTube where there were Naruto seals, and we quickly just make those poses, animated them, and it looks nice. Another quick way, you can get creative with it and play with it, but don't expect things to collide just yet. It's in the works, it's work in progress, but not at this point, no.
Next question.
Nico's back again from New Jersey. How do you handle body scale proportions between Cascadeur and the ultimate character that will receive the generated animation?
Now I'm triggered by the generated animation with the wording. So the proportions, Again, if I understand it correctly, if not, correct me, please. So when you have a character, for example, of different proportions, right? And you have some sort of animation. Again, it focuses on the character's fulcrum points of where the character comes in contact with, say, the ground or with other surfaces, and how their weight is distributed there. So having those fulcrum points established correctly allows us to retarget the animation onto a character of different proportions, right? Say you have like a step, and then of the character with longer legs will have a bigger step, right? A longer step and stuff like this, and vice versa. So yeah, it's the whole thing of the physics calculation is based around those points of contact, and that is basically the first and the most important thing. You have to keep your eye out. Whether you're animating by hand, you're just making those keyframes. Make sure you make a keyframe when the character gets in touch with the surface, and when those fulcrum points leave the surface, say the foot just gets in the air and leaves the surface. And the same you go for, just make sure it's all relative to the floor or to the surfaces. And once you have that down, the rest is up to those algorithms and AI to decide.
Next question.
Next question comes from Rian Smith in Trinidad. Is this a sensible workflow? We use Cascadeur to create the nice animations and then throw it into a Z-weave to create the clothes for the model, or vice versa.
Are you familiar with Z-weave?
I'm not.
So it's clothing simulator that oftentimes we use inside of, or some people use inside of Unreal. Do you want to add something to that, Nick?
Yeah, I was going to just say that, that definitely is a reasonable workflow, since, the purchased versions of Cascadeur can export an animation in FBX format, which can be readily imported into Z-Weave. Of course, you just want to make sure that your geometry is, lightweight and digestible enough by all the different tools in your pipeline, but that should work.
Yeah, I agree.
Max?
Yes, I think it's going to work, and it can be back and forth. So, for example, with some animations, you can then notice, for example, your hand goes through some of the geometry. You can quickly fix it, re-export it, and there you go. Yeah, sure, no problem. I don't see any.
Max, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate you coming and joining us. Where are you coming in from, just out of curiosity?
I grew up in England, but then relocated to Finland, and but the headquarters are in Cyprus. So we're currently,
So you're in Cyprus, or are you in Finland?
I'm in Finland.
Oh, fantastic! I'm always. I realize I didn't ask. Usually, I ask where people are coming in from, and I'm just always curious because to us it's become almost not important. Like we just people just are in Zoom. So anyway, really, really great to see more about this. We're really excited about what you're working on there. So we'll keep on playing with it. Maybe bring you back as we get a little bit further along on the path. But thank you so much. And where can people find more information about Cascadeur? You have it sounds like you have a YouTube channel with a fair amount of stuff on it.
Yeah, we do, and it's constantly gets regular updates and everything. We try to post as many tutorials as we can, but we face the situation where the software develops so fast that we just not catching up. We release a tutorial like half a year later. It's no longer.
Right.
It's already much easier. It's already on a different level. But yeah, you can check the cascadeur.com website. Of course, there's a YouTube channel, the official Cascadeur YouTube channel, and do follow us on Discord, because we do have a very cool community. There's tech support there. You can just post your stuff, ask questions, and get like a quality support and tech support. So yeah.
And are you doing? You said you're doing a live stream tomorrow. Is that in YouTube or in Discord?
Yeah, I'm doing a live stream tomorrow. There's going to be my first live stream on YouTube, and I will go into as much detail about this particular scene with a double backflip, but I will go, step by step from just getting the raw mocap data, retargeting it,
right,
rigging it, bringing onto the character, make those subtle adjustments, so you could see this workflow in the full.
What time do you have that planned for tomorrow?
An hour later than your show. So
Okay.
it's gonna be like 6 p.m. for us, Central European summertime, I think.
Mhm.
Oh no, it's gonna be 5 p.m. With this summertime and everything, is like it gets confusing. But it's
Very
an
good.
hour later than your show.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Thanks again, and thanks to our panelists. Can't do this without you. Answering all the questions in the first hour and being part of the conversation in the second hour. Thanks to our producers who ask all the questions. It's a real short show without you. We really appreciate everybody throwing in those questions. I think we're starting to approach 60,000 questions since we started. So we really appreciate everybody's contribution there. And thanks to the incredible teams that are on the back end that are planning these shows, managing the shows, cutting the shows, developing the tools for the shows. We can't do this without the entire village involved. So thank you so much. Today, if we had traveled, the Tlaloc Traversal is if we had traveled person to person to person to ask these questions all over the world, we would have traveled 67,000 miles. That's 108,000 kilometers, and that is 532 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. Max, that was great. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It's absolutely.
Thanks so much, Max. Yeah, this is.
I was going
toys-
to take you to take up on that challenge though, because I can make a step in.
I know,
I can make a walk cycle.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure I would
15
put you too much on the spot there. So I was
it's all good.
we kind of wandered off there. I was like, maybe he doesn't want to do that. So, but you should do it. You should do a live stream of that or do a video of that. For me, every time I get a new animation package, the first thing that I do is like, how do I do a walk cycle? And it's like my Rosetta Stone of animation tools. So.
The only thing there is that it's possible, but walking is the most difficult thing that you can think about. But you could see how, Cascadeur can assist you with, because it will shift the center of mass. It will give you this initial inertia. So when you make a step, your body actually leans forward before you make a step, right?
Right.
It will do it